Hello everyone, this is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, a theological analysis by Michael Eaker. So a little background information. It was authored by C.S. Lewis, who is a Christian theologian, and he wrote many short stories that were Christian allegories. It was written in the 1950s post-World War II era, and it was set in modern-day London, I believe. The story is based on a Christian allegory, which basically means that everything in the book kind of symbolizes something about the Christian faith. Okay, so the Pevensie children. These are the main characters of the book, and they kind of carry our story. So Lucy, she's kind of the most important kid at first. She initially finds a wardrobe in the professor's house when they first get there, and she enters the realm of Narnia. She's the first one. She is the most curious of the children, and she's the most enthusiastic about the children. However, she's the youngest, so the other kids, her siblings, don't really take her seriously at first. And then there's Edmund, who's very stubborn and naive. He's the second one to get into Narnia, and when he gets there, he meets the White Witch, and this is when she is first introduced. And he is tempted by her, and when he meets her, she gives him Turkish delight for the first time, and he tastes it, and from then on, he wants more and more. But he's stubborn because when he gets back, he doesn't tell the other kids, or the older siblings, that Narnia is real, and then there is created turmoil between Lucy and Edmund. Then there's Peter. He's the older brother who's brave and valiant. And then Susan, who's the older sister. She is smart, wise, and a peacekeeper. So the other characters, Aslan is probably the most symbolic character because he represents Jesus Christ. Aslan is talked about as a Messiah-like being. He possesses the greatest and oldest magic, as they say in the story. When it is revealed to him that to the witch that he is back, they say the witch is fearful and she wants to destroy his power. And then obviously, as we see, he has the power to resurrect himself and others, which is also similar to Jesus. The White Witch represents the opposite, which is Satan. At first, she comes off kind and provides Edmund a snack, which is true that Satan comes in many forms and can display himself in many forms. The Turkish delight that she gives Edmund represents sin, and that sin may taste good in the moment, but it's evil. And obviously in the story it's enchanted, which makes it evil. And the witch wants to strip Aslan of his life and power to spread evil throughout Narnia. So the death and resurrection, this is kind of the most representative of Jesus that we get. So in the story, according to old magic, and this is when Aslan and the witch are face to face before the battle, it says that one must give up their life once they have committed to the witch, which was Edmund. Aslan decides to spare Edmund's life for his own, and his sacrifice represents the way Jesus died for the sins of man, or in this case, Edmund represents that sin of man. Obviously, Aslan is killed by the witch and her group, which I guess would represent the Romans or the Pharisees. And then when Aslan resurrects himself, it becomes extremely clear who he is and who he represents, if you were confused before. Aslan goes on to resurrect the fellow animals by going to the White Witch's house with Lucy and Sarah on his back, and he resurrects all those animals that were turned to statues. I'm not completely sure, but maybe this is representative of Lazarus, who was resurrected in the Bible. And then they go on to defeat the White Witch in the Great Battle. And then the last kind of thing that Aslan does is he disappears. It says Aslan quietly slipped away on page 97. I believe this represents Jesus kind of ascending into heaven. And in my experience, I am a Christian, so I understand what represents what and who represents who in this story. However, I did read this as a kid, and I definitely did not put the two and two together. I think it's very clever how C.S. Lewis was able to incorporate so many biblical examples into a fantasy world that's just so easy to read. And I feel like if I were to put myself in the shoes of a child post-war, probably when Christianity was more talked about, kind of more popular, I probably would have caught on to the premise of the book, but who knows. maybe I wouldn't as an 8-year-old. And then for the non-believer, this book does create a much more reader-friendly depiction of the gospel, one that's not so graphic, maybe. Or if you don't want to take it for the allegorical reasons, it's just a great fantasy story. And then the non-theological perception. Power of Forgiveness. Edmund, after everything's over, apologizes for what he's done, apologizes for his actions. I guess that's kind of his repentance. And his siblings forgive him. And then they're kind of all united again, which was nice. And then family is extremely important. Like I just said, the siblings there was turmoil at the beginning just because they didn't know if they were to be taken seriously or if they were just getting made fun of. And then, obviously, this led them to end up just being kings and queens of Narnia all together, serving as one, or ruling as one. And then the last thing is just stay curious. Lucy's curiosity just kind of carried the story into what it really is. And yeah, thank you very much. My name is Michael Eager, and that is the end.